Alrighty, 5:07 on a beautiful Saturday afternoon here at News 96.5 WDBO. As the Ask the Experts weekend rolls on, it is time for the Pool Fanatics show, featuring the Pool Fanatic himself, Tony Caruso of TC Water Features, Orlando Luxury Pools, and the Pool Fanatic Pool Service Company. Now, for any and all pool-related questions, even questions about spas, backyard lifestyle enhancements like outdoor kitchens, fireplaces, batting cages even, and more, call now, 844-220-0965, 844-220-0965. You can text questions as well at 21232. Again, any questions about your pool, pool service, backyard lifestyle enhancements, kitchens, fireplaces, and more. And here's Tony Caruso.
How are you doing today, Tony?
Doing great. How are you?
Well, I'm pretty honored to be sitting next to you. I could tell you that. You know, I'm listening to my bed and Rob, but you're going to fold in this really nicely because we're going to make this a really good show today. So one of the things we'd like to start the show off is who's watching the children. You know, Chris and I just come back last Sunday from a 10-day road trip where we do our Elk Charity Challenge, which is Everybody Loves Kids. And today I have my special guest is my son, Chris Caruso. How you doing today, Chris?
I am fantastic. How are you?
You know how I am. If I'm not living the dream, I'm not living.
Right.
So, you know,
I've heard that about you.
You've heard that about me. So, you know, one of the amazing things that Chris and I did is we spent we were about 9.5 days on the road. We drove 4,042 miles. We had 72 hours in the seat, and guess we were out doing amazing things for kids. Weren't we? It was a beautiful thing that we were doing on the charity challenge.
Yeah, we did get in a fight once.
Not one time, and that's the blessing about taking your family and working for family, you know. Tony, one thing about my business is it's a family business. It's one of the last family businesses around in the swimming pool industry. I'll be rolling into my 36th year in August. So,
wow.
Yeah, I started when I was 4, so can't you tell?
That's what I was going to say.
This is a good year. So, you know, one of the beautiful things we talk about who's watching the children. Chris, do you remember when we were in, is it Seneca Valley? Where we went to the high school? Salamanca. We went to a high school. Do you remember the story that Tim Miller told? Tim Miller is the founder, and I know you know this name, Tony, Texas EquiSearch. You've heard that name more than one time.
Absolutely. Yes.
And Tim Miller was on the rally this year. Remember we had that nice conversation about what's going on? He stood up and then he asked everybody where the principal was that was sitting in the front row. Do you remember that?
I do.
And there was about 500 people in that auditorium that day, and all 500 people were listening to the announcer up front, which is Tim Miller, talking about what Texas EquiSearch does. And he asked one simple question: did anybody see where Principal so and so went? What did they say, Chris?
Nobody could remember what she was wearing or where she went and who she went with.
And she was sitting in the front row, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Right in the middle of the conversation. And do you remember what the bottom line of that story was? You know, go ahead.
Pay attention to your surroundings.
Okay, so when you talk about paying attention to your surroundings, here's a woman that's sitting in the front row. This is a woman now, sitting in the front row of the auditorium, the principal of all people. And I watched the lady sitting in front of me, was one of the Elk people. She walked up. We were five rows side stage. She walked up front row, tapped on the shoulder, and they walked off stage. I saw it happen.
Uh-huh.
And so Tim, as he's telling about what he does and how he got involved in this, he asked where the principal was, and not a single person could tell you where she went, who she went with, or what she was wearing.
And you said there were like 500 people in the auditorium.
And, of course, you know, Tony, the auditorium slants down,
right.
So you have a nice view of what's happening up front. So the bottom line is not paying attention to your surroundings. Just as simple as that. Broad daylight in school. We were there about 9 o'clock, Chris. 9:30.
9 o'clock. Yeah.
We stayed there for about 45 minutes, and through all that time, no one paid attention. So after the conversation is where did she go? They brought her back off stage, and she went with Anna, she's the new dean of Alfred State, and Alfred State is one of the sponsors for the Elk Charity Challenge. Everybody Loves Kids. So what was really ironic about this? I guess a week before, one of the high school students was out driving DUI, killed somebody, and you know that's what's starting to change. People just need to pay attention to what they're doing. Now, this was an adult. Could you imagine how complacent kids get?
Right.
So when we talk about who's watching the kids, it's really everybody. Because one of the things that Tim said, and I'll never forget this for the rest of my life, he met George Bush in 2003. And, of course, Texas EquiSearch, what are they doing? They're looking for missing children, hopefully alive, but unfortunately, the 297 cases he's done, the majority of them have not come home to their family. But one of the things that he said, and this is very important, children make up 25% of our population, but 100% of our future. Pretty powerful, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So we talk about you need to, if you should always try to go out in pairs. Always pay attention to what your friends are wearing, what you're doing, where you're going. Always let somebody know what you're doing. Now, today was a beautiful day. Great day to go swimming. Great day. It was hot. What time do you think, Chris? About 90 degrees at 8:30 this morning.
Yeah, it was a little oppressive.
And really sweating really quite well. So, outdoors today, swimming in the pool, never swim alone. Always swim with an adult. Always swim with an adult. Now, you can take your cell phone with you to the swimming pool. Just put it down. Put it down. Take your iPad, put it down. Just when you go to the pool, it's family time. Enjoy the family time and pay attention to your child. We went to, where did we go do some synchronized swimming, Chris?
It was in Lake Erie.
Synchronized swimming.
Dude, Tony, this was so good. It made the top story on the evening news.
In Lake Erie.
Yeah, top story. So could you imagine the news in Lake Erie? We make the top story. But guess what? There are loads and loads of lifeguards. This was quite a big facility. I would guesstimate this facility was probably 75 to 100,000 square feet.
Easy.
Had multiple swimming pools for toddlers, teenagers, adults, lap pools. We went to the wave pool to do the synchronized swimming. So could you imagine about 60 adults trying to synchronize swim in three groups? And, of course, Chris comes up with this great choreograph. And, of course, we're trying to all in fun, all trying to make a difference in children's lives.
Right.
So knowing that you need to be on top of what's going on. So what's been happening in the swimming pool industry in the last couple of weeks? A lot. I know our local power company is going to be a little bit upset starting next month because we just took 4 people basically pretty much off the grid with these new variable speed pool pumps we put in. Power company's going to have about a $2,400 reduction in payments for the over four people we put pumps in for variable speeds. They'll save $600 a year just in power by those variable speeds we did. We also took some high capacity filters off the line and put in very efficient cartridge filters. So these systems are going to run more efficiently. They're going to run less energy, and they're going to save about $600 a month. We did that 4 times last week. We got 2 coming up this week, 2 or 3 coming up this week. Number 2 user in energy in the state of Florida is your swimming pool pump.
Yeah, now, I was talking about this with Larry Perry just a little bit earlier. How technology is changing every single industry, right? And that's something that people may not immediately think about because that's one of the things you think about when you have a pool. Well, it takes a lot of electricity, right?
It takes a lot of electricity when you look.
Just like your air conditioner
Sure.
unit and a lot of other things, I'm guessing the pool pumps now are a lot more efficient than they used to be.
Well, you're exactly right. And the Energy Act of 2007 required that if you had a single speed pump with horsepower, 1 horsepower or greater, it shall be 2-speed. And the default on a 2-speed 1 horsepower pump is about 3/8 of a horsepower. So you don't quite get the full. It's over a half reduction. But in variable speed technology, it's like driving your car. The more you push on the gas, the faster you go. That's pretty simple. Right. But there's also a sweet spot in that fuel efficiency rating where you tune the system in to give you maximum performance. Well, when you go into variable speed, air conditioner's number 1 user. If you have a swimming pool, if you're one of the lucky 1.2 million people in Florida that have a swimming pool, you're number 2 on the power bill. Why don't you make it number 9? Put the pool pump below your refrigerator. And you can do that by taking that pump out, putting the right speed in. Now, I see a lot of this, and I get a little upset at pool service guys, where not the pool service guy, maybe the retailer selling the customer a product to put in their pool, they'll sell them a 2.7 horsepower variable speed, great pump. Hayward makes an amazing variable speed setup, but it's not designed for it. The piping doesn't allow you to do that, where, and Chris sees this all the time as well, where you're not going to put in this little old small motor, put this big old carburetor on it, and don't supply it with the right fuel line. Guess what you're going to have? A system that doesn't operate very efficiently. And that's why you should not overspend upsize a pump on a swimming pool. Chris knows as well as I do, when we do swimming pools, hydraulics is a background that I fully understand. And when it comes to saving energy, trying to save the customer, big money up front. Number two user, number one payback is putting in a variable speed pool pump. So we did quite a few of those last week. Had a couple pool shells in the ground last week. We put some decks in last week. We plumbed a few pools. My plumber can't stop. He could work 7 days a week. That's my youngest brother, Mike. He could work 7 days a week right now. He can't stop. So it's like we're heavy-sided on one end of it. We're gearing up on the other end, so it all kind of flows together. So, Chris, how was your week coming back? Were you stressed coming back from this 9-day road rally?
Oh, just a little bit, but once you get a couple days into it, it just gets back into the normal routine.
But you know what you did is a great job pre-planning up front and let everybody know what we're doing, what the schedule is. And by doing that, coming back is a lot easier. I mean, only coming back to about 250 emails. I mean, that's just a small clip in the bucket. But I try to stay on top of my emails the whole time I was gone, replying to my customers and keeping them in the loop. And by doing that, things went very smoothly. So when I came back, I wasn't overwhelmed with the things I had to do. And you rolled right back into it quite nicely. So we're going to go to a break here before long. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about, your swimming pool, what your swimming pool needs are, the time of year, where we're going at. That's 407-282-4911. Please visit our website at TC Water Features. Like us on Facebook. Believe it or not, that's TC Water Features again, where amazing things can happen in your backyard.
All right, you want to get in on the show with your questions? 844-220-0965. That is Tony Caruso. It's the Pool Fanatic Show. 844-220-0965. We'll be right back. All right, we are back on the Pool Fanatics Show featuring Tony Caruso, the Pool Fanatic himself of TC Water Features, Orlando Luxury Pools, and the Pool Fanatic Pool Service Company. Tony will give you the websites and more information through the course of the program. If you have any questions whatsoever, 844-220-0965. 844-220-0965. And again, not just pools, backyard lifestyles like kitchens, fireplaces, even batting cages, and more. Tony.
All righty. Thanks for having me back. One of the things that we're finding out a lot here lately on our service routes, and I need to definitely be calling some water municipalities, is the food grade phosphate that's getting added to these pools in a very, very high concentration. We did a stain cleanup on a pool in Castleberry. Didn't have to drain the pool initially, but the scale was so bad that the calcium level spiked about 450 parts per million. So we had to drain the pool. We had to drain about half the pool to continue the stain process cleanup. And we drained it and refilled the pool and continued the process of cleanup, but we couldn't get rid of the algae. Just couldn't get rid of it. And we went and tested the pool, and we had phosphates above 25,000 parts per billion, or 2,500 parts per billion. So we treated the pool, and at the same time, we pulled a sample of water off the tap, and there's 500 parts per billion of phosphates coming out of the tap water. Well, that's not good. The reason they were putting food-grade phosphate in these water lines is because they're trying to overcome the deterioration inside the metal line pipes that feed your house with water. Well, the problem with that is they're not thinking about what it does to your swimming pool. That's like putting fluoride. You remember, Tony, when they put fluoride in water?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't really a good thing, was it? Well, no. So that fluoride's no longer in water, in your tap water, and I know that in Central Florida it's not. But what's happening is this food grade phosphate. Once one phosphate spore enters your pool today, there's 2 tomorrow, there's 4 the next day, there's 16 the following day, and it escalates so fast. So what's happening is your pool chlorinator or salt system is eating that chlorine up so fast it cannot overcome the phosphate bloom in your pool. So what happens is your demand for chlorine goes through the roof. You've got phosphate bloom in your pool. The only way to treat that is with a high concentrated phosphate remover. Now, the big box store, what they're going to do is they're going to sell you a gallon of the stuff for about $16 or $18 a gallon. Well, the stuff that we buy is $120 a gallon. And the reason it's so expensive is because we use less product to do the better job. So I'm using 4 ounces and you're using a gallon. Right. Well, what did you get out of that? You just spent bad money to put a whole bunch of dissolved solids in your pool that didn't really resolve your problem. So when you come to chemistry for your swimming pool, cheaper's not better. But definitely read your instructions. I went on a nice big redo last week. I think it was Wednesday. I go to the house, and I look in the backyard, and this lady has a massive water feature, in-floor cleaning system, and she had a company come out and replace the pool pump. Well, an in-floor cleaning system requires a high-head pump that can overcome the resistance to turn the nozzles in the pool to clean the pool. Well, instead of having a 2-horsepower pump in, they put a 1-horsepower pump in. The lady kept saying, why isn't my pool cleaning like it used to? Why isn't my waterfall cleaning like it or flowing like it should? And I'm looking over there. First off, they put a 1-horse pump in, brand new. Nothing wrong with the pump they put in except it's too small. That's number one. Number two, they didn't bond the pump. So there's only 2 really big, large retail suppliers in Central Florida. One of you put it in wrong, and I know who you are. You put it in wrong and you didn't bond the pump. That's the biggest no in the world to do. Do not mess with the bonds on these pumps. Do not mess with the bond on a screen enclosure. Do not take the ground wire or the green wire off the back of the pump, the heater, or the heat pump. Leave it attached. You are creating issues by doing so. You're going to find out on Monday. I'm going to call the company and tell them you need to go out there and do 2 things. 1, put the right pump in for this lady, and 2, bond that pump off. So basically, if you don't know what you're doing, don't touch the pool equipment. If you don't know how to work on a car, don't work on a car. Stay away from it. Let the professionals do what they do best. So when you're in the retail business, you do not have to go to school. There is no license required. There's no regulation on it. You go and do a test, and you send them back with a printout. So Chris, I go out to Wedgefield on Friday, one of our great radio listeners, and he goes to one of the retail stores over in Waterford Lakes. And he says, man, I shock my pool every week. I'm putting the right amount of chlorine. I put the right amount of algaecide. I can't get rid of the algae in my pool. So I walk up there and I said, 2 things. You either got phosphates or you have high stabilizer. And he goes, well, I got no phosphates. I'm treating for it. But what I do have is I have a problem. I'm tired of brushing my swimming pool. So I go and test this guy's water. His stabilizer level or cyanuric level was 140 parts per million. Well, their test kept on reading out at 99 parts per million. The reason it stopped at 99 is because their machine's not capable of testing above 99. So here the guy is, Tony, he's going to the retail store. He's been there 6 times. He's buying algaecides. He's shocking his pool, but he can't get rid of the algae. Guy solved it in about 3 minutes. I went out and did a test. I even had the missus look inside my comparator and tell me when the black dot disappeared. And guess what? It disappeared when I put like 8 drops in there. I'm at 140. So the only way to get rid of it, he has to dilute his water to dilute his stabilizer down so his chlorine's effective. What basically happened is the chlorine got locked up. I got it. It's in my water, but it's doing nothing. It's not effective. So homeowner's got to drain the pool. Well, I'm not sure he's done it yet, but maybe I'm going to wait till Monday if this depression forms up, and we might get a couple inches of water out of that, and that'll help dilute it out. But the only way, Tony, to make this all go away, dilute the pool 50%. He's got to get the stabilizer down below 70%, or below 80. 90, 100, locks it up. So, but he's using trichlor tablets. So each trichlor puck has 0.5 parts stabilizer in it. He puts 3 a week in. That's 1.5 per week. Let's call it 6 parts per month. With no rain, no dilution, your stabilizer continues to rise. So I like to see people that are still on tablets to be around 30 parts in the spring, because all it's going to do is rise. I know we're going to get dilution from rain. We get about 60 inches of rain a year here. That's 5 feet. That's basically 1 complete turnover in a 5-foot deep pool, but it's still not enough to keep up. Now, if you have a salt system, you need high stabilizer. 407-282-4911. Visit us at TC Water Features. Like us on Facebook, where amazing things can happen in your backyard.
And as you mentioned, we may have a lot of rain coming up on Monday with the tropical depression we're watching. We do have a call from John in Ormond Beach. We will go to John right after the news, 5:30 at News 96.5 WDBO. And welcome back to the Pool Fanatic Show. Little Bananarama. You remember that, Tony Caruso, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Chris,
back in your day.
Chris wore his disco shirt. I want to talk about that.
It's a good thing your son's name is not Tony Jr., because then we would be Tony. Like the old group.
Do we have to go there, Tony? My oldest son's name is Tony. So, and if you hear Rob don't come back, we'll bring Tony on so we can have the Tony show.
All right, it is the Pool Fanatic Show, 844-220-0965. That is Tony Caruso, the Pool Fanatic. And we do have John hanging on from Ormond Beach with a question. John, welcome to the program.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm having my pool resurfaced, and, I requested a diamond bright finish, and the contractor says they're using it's the same product but a different brand. I'm not familiar with anything else other than the diamond bright.
Okay, John, I got a question for you. When you buy cotton swabs, do you buy Q-tips brand?
Not always.
Okay, so Diamond Bright's a brand. That's what it is. Okay, so not a lot of people use Diamond Bright per se, but everybody uses a quartz finish. Okay, so think about it this way, John. I hope they're going to do a great job for you. We'll talk about that in a second. Quartz is quartz. If it's naturally mined product, which is a gem, it's the 8th hardest known mineral known to man in gemology scale. It's an 8. Diamonds are 48, sapphires are 9. So that gives you an idea how hard the quartz finish is. And all the differences, the cement and all, those are just brand specific. So if you're getting CLIs, Magic Colors, you're getting Florida Stucco, if you're actually getting Diamond Bright, those are just a few of the brand names. Do you know the name of the product they're using on you?
It started with an M, so that's the only thing I remember. I didn't recognize the name.
I do. I'm thinking about it in a second. Not M. There's a few of them out there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Okay, but real important, John. What's very important that they do? Are they bond coating your pool finish? That's a finish they put inside. Okay, so you want that bond coat to be 100% of the new inside of the pool before they put the new finish in. Did they undercut your tile? Did they cut a horizontal line at the tile line and drop down about 4 inches and cut another horizontal line and remove that section of material? Did they do that?
Well, the original person that put the pool in didn't do it properly. They put the tile at the top of the shell. Yeah. And that wasn't good. So we took the whole deck out and replumbed and started from scratch other than the shell. So they did it. They got the tile on where it's supposed to be, and everything looks good. So they're starting from scratch. Okay, so that's what you want to do is you want to make sure whatever they do, that 4 inches before it gets a tile, that's actually cut back. So when they bring the finish up the wall, it finishes up smooth the tile. They should do that around the light niche. The main drain gets a new frame and grate. They should not ever reuse your frame and grate at all. Your main drain, that needs to go in the trash, and they need to trim around your light ring, and also make sure they seal the conduit for that light ring. And if they're going to put new step and bench tile on, make sure that's 100% grouted, because grout is not a waterproofer. So how far along are you in your process, John? Well, we've got the concrete deck back on, tiles on, and now we just got to seal the deck, and then we're going to the finishing of the inside of the pool. Make
sure that bond coat is not on your pool finish greater than 5 days before they put that pool finish in. If not, they got to rebond coat your pool, because that's going to lose its plasticity, allowing the materials to stick together. So make sure that bond coat's not done.
Repeat that again, as far as it should be on there.
No.
How long?
No more than 5 days. So if they come in and they put the bond coat inside the pool, they have to do the pool finish within 5 days. And of course, is a 1-day process. Apply it today, light acid wash, fill the pool today. Hopefully it's filled by the next day or so, chemically start it up, and make sure they do a low alkalinity startup on that quartz finish so it doesn't blemish, because stains do not come in the bag. Stains come into swimming pool from lack of keeping the pH in the pool water in the right balance.
Well, you've been a real help, and I think we're on the right track. So I appreciate everything, and I'll keep listening.
Thanks. Thanks for being a listener, and have an awesome rest of your weekend. Chris, one of the things that you and I did, we were in Erie, Pennsylvania, and this is one of the beautiful things that Elk brings back to the kids. This is a very heartwarming story. We went to Shriners Hospital that day, and we met little Emily Metcalf. She's 10 years old. And let me tell you what Shriners does, and it didn't cost his family a dime and still isn't going to cost his family a dime, is when she was born, her right leg was 8 inches shorter than her left leg. Let's see, it was the left leg. Left leg was 8 inches shorter than her right leg. 10 years old. The spirit this child had was truly, truly a blessing. So she's had 25 surgeries, and that leg is now within 3 inches of the length it needs to be at, and that surgery will not happen until she's 15 or 16 years old. you remember going downstairs and seeing her, Chris?
Oh, I do.
And what was she doing downstairs?
She was smiling for one, because she was just having a great time. And then she makes bracelets and sells them for $5 a piece, and every dollar she raises goes right back to Shriners.
So what did dear old dad do? What did I do?
Gave her $5.
Yeah, right. What did I do? I gave her the $100 bill.
Yep, along with probably like 15 other people.
Okay, and then she gave me the beads, and I gave them back. And I told her to resell those beads to raise some more money. So guess how much money, Tony, little Emily has raised in a year?
Sounds like she's raised quite a bit.
Would you give me a guess? It's 5 figures for sure.
Wow. I don't know, 40,000.
Done. 60 grand. 60 grand. She's making these bracelets for 60 grand. And then what did one of the elk people do, Chris? I get chills. What did one of the elk people do?
He spent probably $2,000, $2,500 on toys just to give to the Shriners kids so they have stuff to play with while they're at the hospital.
Nice.
And there was a toy for every child in there. So that's how much elk gives back. I know for sure that we at least put up at least a couple $1,000s in cash. And those toys, do you remember what kind of truck those toys arrived in, Chris?
One of them was a Dodge Minotaur. It's a custom-made Dodge truck that was made in Detroit. Same company that paints all the Dodge Vipers that makes these custom trucks.
That was Kim Zeal. This company paints every single Gen 5 Dodge Viper. We walked through their warehouse and their production assembly, and I was truly, truly floored. Now, the Minotaur is a Dodge Ram that they take the outer body of this truck off, and it is absolutely, we went jumping in that truck. Did you go jumping in that truck that day?
Oh, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Oh, we jumped over some dirt hills that day, man. Let me tell you something. And I'm holding a bottle of water. I'm holding a bottle of water as we're going in the air, and I only lost a drop or two. So we were blessed to have Kim Zeal on the rally, of course, going through his warehouse. That Dodge truck, believe it or not, is going to smoke the Ford Raptor. And, I'm a Blue Oval guy. I'm a big-time Blue Oval guy. But back to the Shriners time. When Chris and them were visiting with Emily and all the other people coming downstairs, I actually went into the technology room. There's $1 million worth of technology in that room where he showed me a boy that was 8 years old that had scoliosis. And, of course, I believe scoliosis is the body not being able to allow the muscles and everything to react accordingly. And was it scoliosis or was it I'm trying to think of what it was. Anyhow, I'll think of it in a second. But anyhow, they have a 3D imagery where they go in there and they diagnose the weight of your feet, how you press at the weight on your feet, how you walk, and they 3D it. And then they go back in there and they retrain the brain. And what they did in 3 years was take this boy who had his legs out to his side at least 30 degrees off to 90 from walking. And that's how he walked. And he had to flop his arms to be able to keep his balance. Within 3 years, this boy was walking upright. Just needs to do a bit of back exercises because he's still got a slight little bow on his spine going forward. Right. But if he, and the Shriners did everything they could for him. It's up to the boy to get into a little bit of physical therapy. But when I went in there, I was amazed. What does the money do that people put into research or the donation? We raised $25,000 for Shriners while we were gone on a rally. So that evening, we are in Erie, Pennsylvania. We were at the Warner Theater. Mm-hmm. Great friend of mine who's been on the show many times, the great Ron Sedgy, did a concert at the Warner Theater, which was built around 1919. The inside of this building is incredible. Well, guess who attended? Little Emily. She was with her family. She was up in the front row, and of course, she's got walking apparatus that she used to help walk, and she's up there just dancing away. Right. And about 2/3 of the way through the show, they bring Emily up. They bring a couple of people up there, and they presented a check for that day was $10,000. So Shriners got $10,000 that night, or a total of $25,000. But Emily was there. She was a recipient of the check. And then the proceeds from the show itself that Ron Sedgy did in Erie, Pennsylvania, went to Shriners as well. So that's just a few of the things that we do. When we were in Dearborn the very first night, the second night, the first check went to Texas EquiSearch. So, and we raised $35,000 for Texas EquiSearch. That budget, they need $500,000 a year to operate. They generate about $375,000.
That's what I was going to mention before when you were talking about Texas EquiSearch. And for the folks that don't know, they were here for the Kaylee Anthony search. And we were talking about it off the air. The woman and her kids that disappeared in
Right.
Volusia County.
Right.
And that's the one thing I wanted to say is they do that for free.
They don't charge.
Right.
There's no. So how did Texas EquiSearch become Texas EquiSearch? They were horse drawn. That was basically, they had horses. And then all of a sudden, Tony calls up and says, hey, I got a four-wheeler. And then Chris calls up and says, hey, I got an airplane. And then Chris over here, not my son Chris over here says, I got a helicopter. So that's how all this comes together when he has 14,000 volunteers around the country, 14,000. And I could tell you some Natalie Holloway stories that will probably make your skin curl. They found their body. They found that body, and that's proven to be done. And Tim has the photographs of that. So what's amazing, and Jennifer Kessie, I mean, those are all big cases. Those are all things we hear about here.
Right.
We don't hear about all the other horror stories that happen. I told you one off the air. I'm not going to tell on the air because that's just too sad. So that's why we cannot become complacent where our children are, even our adults. You know, you get a relative with Alzheimer's disease. Well, they remember things that happened 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 50 years ago. They just can't remember short term. Where'd I live? You know, who's my loved ones? So we talk about do not become complacent when you're with a loved one. You know, you can't replace a child. You can't do that. It's not possible. You can't replace a life at all. So that's why we do what we do. That's why we spent 9.5 days on the road, drove all those miles, and every day we made a difference in the towns we went to. 407-282-4911. Visit us at TC Water Features. Like us on Facebook, where amazing things can happen in your backyard.
Yeah, someone texted in fact, about, and if I'm trying to remember, I think this was like Wednesday or Thursday of this week, a child drowned at a Daytona Beach hotel in the pool. And the person that sent this in says the child's caretaker, don't know if that was the parents or not, but they were at the bar.
Not unusual.
Right.
We'll talk about it when we come back.
All right, the three big things you need to know coming up. And if you have any questions for Tony, 844-220-0965. Back in 3 minutes. 6:53 at News 96.5 WDBO as the Ask the Experts weekend continues with the Pool Fanatic, Tony Caruso, again of TC Water Features, Orlando Luxury Pools, and the Pool Fanatic Pool Service Company. If you have a question, we're in the home stretch of the show, 844-220-0965. And Tony, I know you have a lot to talk about. We do have Joe from Maitland on the phone.
Hello, Joe.
Hey, Tony. I've got some white film coming out of it. It looks like the grout on my tile on my pool. My guess is it's calcium. How is it, and how do I get rid of it and maintain it?
And we in the industry call that scale. So here's a great way to get rid of it. Is your tile real shiny, or is it kind of a dull-looking tile?
It's kind of a dull.
All right, good. Take yourself a putty knife very carefully scrape off the really heavy stuff, okay? And
it's not real heavy. It's just a light film.
Okay, so there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can take, with gloves, take some uric acid, about 50-50, and with a sponge, wipe it on there. And as soon as it foams off and turns white, it's going to turn yellow, rinse it off. Then do it again.
Okay.
And that'll start bringing it off in layers. That's one way. Another way is use Jack's Magic Magenta or Jack's Magic Blue. That you do not need to dilute. That'll take off what we equate to about a thickness of a sheet of paper at a time. And once you can get all that scale off, just make sure you keep the pH in the pool in check, and make sure you keep a sequestering agent in your pool water from keeping that from coming back. But it's totally cleanable, Joe. You can get that cleaned up, but it'll take a little bit of elbow grease to do that.
Should I seal the grout or something so it doesn't? And the interesting thing is, Tony, it's some of it's above the water line.
What you're getting is efflorescence. Efflorescence is lime coming out of cement. It's not unusual. Your pool's not very old, or a couple years old, Joe?
Probably 8 years old.
Yeah, it'll eventually stop bleeding out, but you got to stay on top of it. I had it in my pool for about 3 years, and I've got color grout. Well, color grout and white don't go together, but I got it off and it hadn't come back since. Sealing the grout, not a good idea, only because you'll be there for a day or so trying to get that cleaned up. So thanks for calling in, Joe. Good luck with that, and hopefully you can get that resolved.
All right, Joe, thanks for the call. Also, Tony, we have a text of they want to know the best way to clean their pool screen.
Pressure wash. The problem with pressure washing for you is most likely going to be you don't have a wand high enough to get to the highest part of the screen enclosure. But if you can hire a professional to do that, it's probably the simplest way. But if you do have the ability to get a wand tall enough to get up there, and water will do a great job, by the way. But if you got a little bit heavy on the mold and mildew, you can use a diluted version of bleach. But do not do that without eye protection, head protection, and rain gear. To do it without that, you're gonna bleach your body out. You're gonna bleach your hair out. You're gonna bleach your skin out. You get in your eye, you will be a very, very, very unhappy individual. So look at considering hiring a professional, but you know what? You want to interview them too, because I see them when they pressure wash roofs, they use bleach, but they wind up killing the bushes when they don't protect. So you want to make sure you investigate using the right person. But pressure wash will generally do a really good job doing so, but just make sure you wear protection either with or without bleach so you don't get this residual in your eyes.
All right, and Kathy in Orlando on the phone with a question as we head into the home stretch here.
How you doing, Kathy?
Oh, hi. Are you talking to me? My name's Pat.
Kathleen, yes.
Kathleen.
Pat.
How are you?
Okay.
How are you doing?
Just fine, thank you. I just have a question. Is it possible for you to just paint the pool surface?
You can, but I'll tell you it'll be the biggest mistake you've ever made in your life, and I'll tell you why. That'll last about
not me personally,
okay.
But you.
No, I will never paint your pool. Never, never, never,
Okay.
never, never. You would be so upset at me, you'd hate me in 2 years saying, why do I have to repaint my pool again? Not only is the paint going to fail within about 2 years, number two, it's going to oxidize. That was it. If you ever rubbed your hand along your house paint and your house wasn't block sealed before they painted it, that white chalky stuff that comes off on your hands, you'll have that all over your body. I see people paint them. You're going to waste 10,000, 15, 20,000, maybe even more gallons of water. You got to have 7 perfect days to do so, and you would be an unhappy consumer if you had that done to your pool. But I wouldn't personally recommend it. I would only go with a hardened finish. That would be either a 5-year quartz finish or a lifetime pebble finish. That's the only finishes I will do. I'll actually do some crushed granite marble finishes, or we'll do straight glass bead finishes in swimming pools. So, but other than that, I wouldn't waste my time or my money. But great question. I hope you have an awesome rest of your weekend. Tony, one of the things that we talked about earlier was your children. When you make a decision to have someone watch your loved one, it better be the best decision you ever made. I know that Chris and Donna allow us to watch their dog, their puppy, but they do that because they know that we're going to take care of their puppy just like we would take care of our dog. So when you make a decision to have someone watch a loved one, make that the best one. You just read me a story a few minutes ago. The caretaker or care watcher disappeared and a young one drowned.
Right.
Unacceptable.
Right.
Unacceptable. Do not hire the little girl down the street because she's cute and pretty or whatever she is, that she can do it for $8. I don't know what you charge for babysitting, but that better be the best decision you've ever made in your life. So we're going to come back next week to talk about the same thing. We'll talk a little bit more elk. We're actually trying to get the founder of Elk back on the radio. Please stay on top of your pool questions. Stay on top of your water chemistry. The pool is getting warmer. We're anticipating rain on Monday, Tuesday, actually Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Stay on top of your pH. Stay on top of your chlorine level. Do not drain your pool 5 or 6 inches, anticipating 5 or 6 inches of rain. 407-282-4911. Please visit our website at TC Water Features. Like us on Facebook, where amazing things can happen in your